Oh, I know.
Okay.
All right. Got it.
Oh, we're live streaming. Right
Yeah, we're
on.
live streaming.
Okay. All
Yep,
ones of you.
All, yeah,
like
all tunes of us.
we're like
Ones
the
and
mix
ones.
we're like the mixed Jeffersons. We're moving on up.
And that is making the cut. All right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Two Dudes of Sports News. As always, my name is Garrett. I'm here with my co-host.
What it do? What it do? This is Jalen Prince.
So this is going to be part 2 of Let's Get Into It. This is that kind of little sideshow we do where we just kind of have a little bit of fun. We find one topic and we just really get into it. This time we're joined by our boys over at 1420 Sports, Brent and Dave. Say hi to the three, all one of them in the chat right now, the eventual 3, hopefully, who watch this live.
How you doing,
Well,
guys?
And if our audience remember the last time they was here, we almost made close to a 2-hour, 3-hour, 4-hour show.
Oh, we did.
I don't got that kind of time because now it's summer, so it's actually nice outside. So I don't want to be in the basement all night.
It's not
And
snowing
so-
anymore.
There is no snow. I shared pictures with you. When was that? It was ridiculously
That's
cold.
Back in
January, I think.
February. Yeah,
Yeah,
January,
that was
February. I
February.
think.
That was February.
A while ago, and then I sent you a
It's
picture of me on the beach
beautiful
the next
outside. I
day.
haven't had pants on since for 10 days now. I have not put on long pants.
Okay, I was about to say you need to
You
clarify there.
live in a man's home owner's dream.
I cover up like to leave the house, right? Like I'm wearing shorts now.
Yeah.
I have the ability in my job to wear shorts, and so that's where I wear. And yeah,
All right, well, let's get right
wearing
into
shorts is better than wearing pants.
I'll give you that. I got a buddy down. We're not going to go on that tangent. We gotta get it. We'll talk all night.
Yep.
So let's get right into it. So this is a topic I've wanted to get into for a little bit. This was something that Paul George. I don't know if we. Okay, so before I get into Paul George, who is the real street clothes of the NBA? Have you guys ever heard about that?
Yeah, I know almost.
Charles
Barkley,
yeah,
Colin,
Street
Anthony
clothes,
Davis.
Anthony
Simmons.
Davis.
Anthony Davis,
I-
street
Ben
clothes.
Simmons.
I
Yeah.
thought it was Anthony Davis.
Ben
So-
Simmons.
Jalen, I'm Ben Simmons is a good one. I honestly think it's not the LA Clippers, it's the LA Street Clothes. It's just half their team's injured with Kawhi or Paul or somebody's broken on that team. I mean, I don't know, but that's a different thing. So Paul George, like every other athlete and every other person who has 30 minutes of spare time, has a podcast. It's called Podcast P Show. Paul George made a comment about how, quote, NBA players would have an easier time transitioning into the NFL than a football player attempting to transition to play professional basketball. I don't think football players could cross over into the NBA. So that's what he said. I disagree, but that also, Dave, you and I were talking about it. That opens up a whole other topic of, can athletes play dual sports? Because we have the famous examples, which I'm going to go ahead and get out of the way now with Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson played baseball and football, and he was what was he? Was he an all-pro in both? I think
He played in the All-Star game in the 80s there. He was a great baseball player.
He was elite.
Yeah,
he was really good at both. Like he broke that bat over his head one time when he struck out, and he was a great player in the All-Star game.
Did they have
Anaheim.
concussions at that time? Well, did they?
Well, yeah, you
guys
shouldn't.
can talk about it.
For the kids out there, listen, don't go breaking bats across your head if you're upset because it'll wreck your brain.
That's
But,
why I have to mention it because of the era that we're in now.
Yeah. No, Bo Jackson was an elite player. And like I get into this Paul George thing, for him to make that comment of the big four sports leagues, in my opinion, the basketball players to me would have the harder time going into any of the 3 other sports than guys going into basketball. To me, basketball is very hard. I'm not saying that it's not, but I'm going to put money on it that you put a Paul George or LeBron James on a pair of skates, they're fucked.
Oh,
I'm
for
just
sure. No, you're not wrong, Dave. What do you think?
When I think about the 4 big sports, football is before any. It's like body type specific, depending on the position. I think most basketball players can play probably DB, maybe receiver, because of the fast twitch muscles, right? Like it's reaction and doing things, and they are. I think basketball players might be the best athletes out there in that fast twitch muscle thing.
Can you please explain
But-
what a fast twitch muscle is to me, please?
Oh,
So I do know, but I want to hear if
I
Dave
know,
knows.
but
Yeah, I want to hear if
We'll see.
Dave
We're
knows.
gonna-
Hang on.
Okay, I'm the only one of the
I
four
wanna-
who doesn't know that.
I want to
Before-
see
Oh,
what
like-
he knows.
Before we get into this, I do want to shout out to Jim for listening. We now have 2 people watching. Thank you for setting the record,
two?
or at least getting halfway there. We got 2.
We really are moving on.
Moving
We're
on
moving
up.
up in the world,
There's
man. I think we're influencers now. We got 2 whole
Ones
people
and
watching our live
ones,
stream.
yeah.
So 2's a streak. But Jim said Paul George would get hurt just putting on a helmet.
Well, and that's where I was going with this.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
So
you know,
what
like
is a fast twitch muscle?
What I consider fast twitch muscle is like in track, it's your 100-meter guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And women. And then in football, it's your DBs, the guys that can't catch, but now have to be able to move with the guy that can run a 4.140, like and react and move. It's reaction time as opposed to outright straight up speed, which is what you want your receivers to be. In basketball, I've gone to a couple college games in the States, and I've gone to a couple NBA games, and the reaction time and the way those men move blows me away. The game is boring as fucking shit, but their actual physical abilities blow me away. So I do think the NBA athlete does have an opportunity to play DB, maybe receiver, but they're soft as Charmin. Fuck.
They're
Fuck.
10 ply.
Those guys are so soft. Like, you know, like, so
I will give some
They'll
I will
be
give some
out.
of them credit. If the 90s NBA, and I don't anybody come at me for making this argument. If you try to tell me 90s and 80s NBA is not tougher than the current NBA, you're out of your mind. Just go watch any
Right,
highlights.
yeah,
Watch
yeah,
any,
Yeah, that's not
it's
close.
not even close.
watch any Bulls, Pacers. I was sorry.
Those
Bulls,
guys could make the
Knicks,
transition
yeah,
into the
just-
NFL seamlessly
yeah.
because you could hit them and they would fire back. Like that's part of the reason why Allen Iverson, like everybody talks about his practice thing. Like AI was getting murdered in practice as a 6 foot.
You ever seen AI's football highlights back when you was in
I
high
have
school?
seen AI's football highlights.
Maryland, it was
AI is a
unreal.
perfect example. Kobe even said it. I think he was saying if Allen Iverson was 6'6", the league would be over. Dude was
I
6
agree with
foot.
People said that about Steph Curry.
Oh my God, don't get me started on that. Me and Heavy
He's a
been going
different
back and
player.
forth.
On
Yeah, he's a
topic.
very different player. me and Heavy, young Heavy from Sports After
Sports After
Dark.
Dark.
We've been going at it with some of these people talking about fouls and everything, and they're like, "Well, the Lakers have shot more free throws." It's like, yeah, because the Warriors don't drive; they shoot mid range and 3-point shots. You don't get fouled outside the paint; you get fouled in the paint. You go
Well,
in the paint,
nowadays you can. All you have to do is just walk by somebody, and if they can make themselves fall, do some good acting classes like the owner of the Phoenix
you
Suns
beat me
did
to
last
it.
night.
You beat me to
Yep.
it.
So, like,
That
if
is
you're
the
able to
biggest
do
load of
that,
crap.
then you might be able to get some foul calls. By the way, thank God Nikola Jokic is not getting suspended for tomorrow night because that would have been an ultimate crime.
Oh, the amount of people who were actually serious. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, I saw that. I saw this one. I was listening to something else or watching. I didn't know what was happening there, and I saw the replay this morning on TSN or whatever I was watching there. And like for the owner to get involved in that, I was like, "What the hell is
What
going
are you
on here?"
doing?
Typical NBA drama about nothing. Like
I
about
did-
nothing.
I did love the guy who. So they did it with Draymond,
The
where
coach?
they took the old WWE game and they
Oh, I
they
saw
created Draymond and they had him jumping on.
It's not even an old one; it's still new.
It's the new one, yeah, where you can create your own players. So that what they did is they had other angle footage and they created Jokic and he ran out into the crowd and picked up a guy who was dressed like the owner of the Suns and threw him onto the ground. That was amazing. Internet's undefeated, but we're getting way sidetracked. So I mean, Jalen, what do you think? Do you think that NBA players would either have a better time, or do you think that, or what do you think about Paul George's comments? 'Cause I got my own thoughts, but I want you to go
Let's
first.
see. Comparing the two, I'll go along the lines of NBA players would have. First of all, both transitions would not be easy. That would
No.
be very difficult. But if you had to compare the one, if I have to choose, I would say it will be more harder for an NFL player to come into the NBA than it is for an NBA to come into the NFL in this aspect alone. I've seen guys in the NFL with talent to be able to play both sides. I'll give you prime examples. Devontae Adams, Patrick Mahomes, Myles Garrett. All three were former basketball players that had enough talent to be able to compete. There will be role players in the NBA, most likely down road on the bench. That would be my personal opinion on that. But the transition would be there just based on how the rules are in the NBA compared to what they were in the past. It'll be easy to get fouled. They encourage shooting. So if you're able to shoot the ball, also Mahomes is around like 6'3", Adams is around 6'4". So guys have already got experience with some handle type, because if you ever watch Mahomes highlights when he played basketball, he got that type of experience. Devontae Adams, the way he runs his route is based off of basketball, because he got it from Doug Baldwin. That's another history. Go back and look at that one. With Myles Garrett is a little bit interesting because he first of all, he was breeded out of Texas. You could almost find athletes in the state of Texas. That's just a no-brainer. So the transition from football, dealing with that level of physicality, even though the rules have kind of shifted over, but there's still a level of physicality, and you still got to do grown men hits. Go on, like transitioning over to the NBA. If we're talking talent and athleticism, there will be more of a role player type. Thus, would make it a much more less difficult transition than an NBA player in this day and age to transition over to the NBA. That's just based on how the rules are set right now, how players in the NBA perform right now, the skill, and also we're talking about playing 5-on-5 and the level of competition in which they're playing currently right now. They will not be stars. They will be role players. And we've seen type of role players in the NBA that look like, oh, they should be in the NBA, but they contribute and they produce in some type of way. Who's to say that somebody in NFL cannot be able to do that if they have enough athleticism to be able to do that? So I would say the NFL transition would be less as difficult compared to an NBA player going to the NFL.
But Jalen, do you think that's an issue now like you guys are we got a few years on YouTube, like no getting around that. But the thing is, back when Dave and I were younger, guys would you would play more sports, you'd be involved in more athletics.
You're still that now. That's still going on now.
But there's a lot more guys are specialized in sports, and they play football only, and they play basketball only, and they play this only, and they play baseball only. And we're not. I don't want to say grooming because that's a target word out there nowadays, but like we're grooming sport athletes a lot more now, and so that's why maybe now these guys maybe being able to jump from league to league isn't going to happen ever again. But back 20, 30, 40 years ago, whatever it was, there was more of a chance for it to happen because you would actually groom athletes to be athletes. You would have this guy can play baseball, this guy can play hockey, this guy can play football and basketball because he was an athlete and he tried different things. Now you don't get that anymore. So that's why I think it's good, like what we've seen with like Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders. I don't think you'll ever see that again. And the money that's involved in it too. You'll never see it again.
You
absolutely won't.
Based on the level, the amount of effort, energy, and the amount of effort and energy that it takes to be able just to do one sport alone, compared to trying to do two, make it do two, because it's a 24-hour job being a professional athlete. There's even off seasons is never truly an off season. If
training camp used to be to get into shape.
Yeah.
Not
now
just
training camp is
make the team or to get contracts, whatever. It's just different now. Yeah.
No, I think you're right.
So ahead, so high school is still the same. It's still the same everywhere. College, that's kind of where it kind of shifted a bit. Now, where you would see multiple sport athletes in college, you're thinking more maybe football and track.
Or football and baseball. Football and baseball is a huge thing for a lot of quarterbacks.
That's a long shot on that one, even today's age. Because you're talking about football and baseball, you automatically kind of look at a quarterback like being a pitcher.
Quarterback being a pitcher or a shortstop or a third baseman because you need or an outfielder because you need an absolute cannon to get that ball from one side of the field to the other. And I mean, Brent, I think you're right. I think it's we're almost at the end of an era of that, unless it's a football and baseball type thing or a football and track type thing, because that is training for some of these other guys. It's a sport they can do on the side. When I was in high school in Florida, a lot of the guys on our team ran track to stay in shape. And a lot of the guys in their team ran track to stay in shape. So what they did was they would just stay there in the offseason, make sure they could stay in shape and go from there. Now, I think we're definitely at the end of an era of that, but also when it comes to, the big four sports, like I played all four sports growing up. The only one I kind of played hockey, but it was also in Florida. So it was on rollerblades, not skates. Don't ever put me on skates. I'll die. But we had that end up happening. Jalen, I muted you when you stepped away. You might have to unmute yourself. But what ended up happening was like, I think we're at the end of an era of that. But the problem with that is I think we're at a point now where we don't have, people won't be able to make that transition. And I think that Paul George to make that comment is a little, NBA players wouldn't have an easier time either. And both people would have a horrible time and they wouldn't be able to play every position. You can't put an NBA player on the offensive line. You can't put guys like centers and everything at tight end because, yeah, they're big as shit, but they can't really catch too much and they can't move.
Go ahead.
You can't put a lot of point guards at like a skill position outside of maybe a running back or a safety or something. Like, yeah, they can jump out of the gym, but they, there's moves, there's everything.
Yeah, this takes more than just jumping.
It's more than just jumping. It's more than just speed. Like, it's part of the reason why, to go on a bit of a tangent here, why Trent Richardson never succeeded in the NFL at the next level. Vision wasn't great, but also if you look at his tape at Alabama, a lot of the things he'd like to do were to run outside. A lot of these multi-sport athletes play multiple sports in high school. Well, all these high school and college kids are getting tired of hitting the, 5-star recruit from Alabama. Nobody in the league was going to get tired of hitting that dude. They relish the fact to do that. So, and then thanks to Jim for saying this one too, not to mention there's no load management in the NFL. That's a good point. Yeah, there's less games, but also it's more physically tolling. It takes more of a physical toll on the body than the NBA season does. And that's not a shot against NBA players. Y'all work hard, but it's also like, for all the NBA players who are listening to this, because none of them are, but you look at the videos of guys who are leaving or, on a Monday, waiting to go back to practice, they're covered in ice packs because it's such a physical toll on your body for 17 weeks out of the year. There's a reason why there's only 17 games, not 82 or 160 or however many games are in the NHL. Like, there's a reason why there's not that many games, because you can kind of space yourself a little more. There's load management, there's shifts. You're not on the ice as long. You're not on the court as long. Sometimes you're taking off days. Soccer, it's endurance based. When it comes to football, if you're not hurt, you're playing unless you suck, and you're going to get your head taken off and deal with it. Dave, you look like you want to say something.
Yeah, I do. And at the point between basketball players, professional basketball players and professional football players, I think football players specifically on the defensive side of the ball, there's a ton of bookwork involved.
Oh, absolutely.
There is a shit ton of bookwork involved. And I don't think that happens. I think NBA, like, your natural talent, and clearly you have to understand the system, the triangle with Phil Jackson and whatever's going on. But it's a very confined space. And at the end of the day, physical attributes are going to rule the day. Shaquille O'Neal, I think he's the shittiest Hall of Famer ever to play. He just happens to be the most largest man who's coordinated to play that game.
He could move though in college. You ever watch any of his highlight tape at LSU?
Of course he could, but he's 7'6" and 320 pounds. He was gifted the challenge. Was gifted.
You can't teach big, right?
No,
you can't teach what he had. He got surgery during the season. That's why Kobe and him broke up, because Kobe worked on his game all the time, and Shaq's like, fuck that.
I don't need to.
I am partying in the off season. I'll get in shape, but I'm the biggest, most coordinated man that has ever played this game. And that's why I do disrespect Shaq O'Neal. He could have been the best basketball player ever in the history of the world, but he didn't, because he didn't work on his game. And take it for what he is. He's a funny guy. He's gregarious. He's funny to watch. I like hearing him, even though he never dedicated his life to the sport that he was built to be the best ever in the history of the world.
So I'll give you a bit of an insight on that. The reason why a lot of these big men, they get drafted so early, because you're right, you can't teach height. And a lot of these college coaches will see like these, Jalen, I'm sure you've seen it too, where you get like a lot of these, 7'2" guys who they're 7 feet tall in high school, and basketball coach just goes, "You're my center." What do I need to do? Just stand under the basket, put your hands up. That's all I need you to do.
Especially in Southeast Georgia.
Yeah, and that's what some people
do. Small schools in general.
And that used to be a huge thing back in, the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And you get like a lot of these goofy big men who were great in college because they were huge dudes, but then they get to the pros and it actually takes skill. The thing where I feel like Shaq sets himself apart in that regard is Shaq also had the skill to do that. And he did dedicate himself to that game. But why a lot of these big men don't last as long, how painful it is to be 7 feet tall and be running and jumping for 24 hours a day. Like, it destroys your knees.
It'll be hard on the body for sure.
Yeah, especially when you're 300 pounds. Like, that's why
I don't think a Hall of Famer should have a 45% free throw percentage.
That's fair, but he dominated every other facet of the game outside of shooting.
Because he was the biggest man there.
You cannot ridicule that.
You can't knock him for being big.
You can't knock him for that. That's God. That's God's. You kind of knocking.
I'm knocking, like God, when he came out of his mother's womb, God said, "You're going to be an NBA Hall of Famer."
Yeah,
for sure. And he worked on the facets he was good at. And there was an interview with Kobe. Kobe's a legend. we will never disrespect Kobe on this fucking show.
My goal.
But he worked on his game like nobody ever did.
But here's the thing though, everybody did not have what Kobe had.
No, it's the same thing with Prime. Prime was one of the first people to use portable DVD players. He was part of the reason why Game Tape became so available. We're a huge Deion Sanders fan on the show, but he made the which I'm not getting into some of the things he said, but like he made he had a portable DVD player where he would take game film with him on the plane. He's like, "I'm watching this," because while there is film in basketball, you can also look at numbers and be like, I'm going to leave. And I'm sure you saw it in the Kings Warriors matchup. The second that Sabonis was near the mid-range or 3-point line, he had 6 feet of open floor because Looney's like, he can't shoot it. If he hits it, that's my fault, but he's not going to shoot that because he can't. So if Sabonis is smart, Sabonis will take that and start working on a mid-range jumper and be, dominant at the next level. People start getting him so much room and they'll be more dangerous. But that's a different tangent. We're getting way off track here, which is always fun. It's basketball is more skill than it is pure unadulterated physicality, because you can have these physical freaks on the basketball court, but if they can't shoot the ball, they're one-dimensional. And you can have these absolute physical freaks on the football field, and you can find a spot for them. You can put them as a gunner on special teams. You could put them, as a safety and say like Jabril Peppers is a great example. Is he the best safety in the NFL? Absolutely not.
No, this dude's a pure athlete.
He's a pure athlete. So you can put him on the field and be like, all right, you cover him. And if they hand the ball off, go get him. That's it. They just let him go nuts. So I definitely think that Paul George is remarkably incorrect in his comment where the NBA would have an easier time, because I think there's very few players who can actually make that transition. Even like he talked about LeBron James.
Well, let's not jerk off every NFL player that their athletic endeavors.
No, you're correct.
You're
to
right
that level. I have a hard time with the NFL huggers to an extent, because they're great athletes to an extent, but there are some big fat fucks who are just big fat fucks.
I'll give you that.
Just tackle guys. There are guys who can run really fast and knock down balls who can't catch balls. There are, and don't pretend that there's not, and do not pretend there's not. And there's guys who are they're like NFL. The NFL is king. I get it, down all over the world. I get it, but let's not pretend that NFL players and every NFL athlete is an athlete, because sometimes they're just big dudes who can move a little bit.
You're right.
That's all they are. And that's all they are. So let's not pretend that these guys can hit 99-mile-an-hour fastballs or can skate and stop hockey pucks, because they're not.
Hitting the baseball is one of the hardest things.
Here's the thing.
Sports. I will never take that away from any baseball player. That's why I quit baseball, because I couldn't hit a freaking ball to save my life, but I could field the best of them. I'm like, this ain't for me.
with
ahead,
baseball, and y'all can testify on this. And like my brother, he played at the next level, and he mentioned this, and I understand it. Baseball does require a more skill than almost any other sport.
Absolutely.
A different
Because
set, yeah.
we're
It's a
not
different set of skills.
we're not talking physical skills. Like, it takes a harder skill with just that. Yes, physicality does matter, and athleticism gives you somewhat a type of advantage in the game of baseball. But there's so much more mental factors that play a part in baseball than any other sport.
Oh, for sure.
It came to a point where I literally said superstitions matter in baseball more than any other sport.
Yep.
If you got lucky socks, lucky whatever, they work.
Yeah.
They work. Like, it's a mental thing. That's where superstitions play a huge part in baseball to me. But it still requires more skills as far as on the mental game.
Well, even look at the mental factor for like a closing pitcher. You can be a closing pitcher multiple days in a row. Correct me if am I correct on that? Because I'm the casual baseball fan.
They usually go 2 and they get a day 2 days off, and then they go 2 and then they go again. It's tough. Like it's different now than it was 20 years ago, obviously.
Yeah, well, that's even
Tommy
like
John, the guys throwing harder than they've ever thrown before.
Exactly.
It's just it's baseball's really hard. Like, the greatest player to ever, or the greatest hitter ever hit was Ted Williams. Hit 400 once, and he failed 6 out of 10 times.
My favorite.
The rest of the times he failed a lot more than that, and he was the best ever. Whereas to me, hitting a baseball is one of the hardest things to do in professional sports. Like, shooting a 3-pointer might be the second hardest thing to do, in my opinion. No, 20 years ago, not now. It's different now.
I think stopping a hockey puck.
Like well, I didn't know how to stop hockey pucks. That's why I'm here sitting here talking to you guys. But whatever. But it's one of those things. It's shooting a 3-pointer. The rules have changed a lot in basketball, where it used to be like really tough to do because it was more confined and everything else. And the guys are big and they're going fast. But hitting a baseball, man, like, I'd like to see Paul George pop off about that and see what his thoughts were with hitting a 94-mile-an-hour slider. Like, they're different sports, obviously.
Absolutely.
But for him to pop off on one thing and not address the other, it seems to be an odd take to me.
We also got to talk about Ty Cobb when we're talking about best hitters in baseball too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the hardest thing to do. That's why I quit baseball. I couldn't do it. I could field with the best of them. I could play great defense, but I couldn't hit to save my life. I think I could never get on base unless I got hit by the pitch, or they threw like a little lollipop right down center plate. And I'm like, okay, I can hit that. But that was why I stopped playing baseball. And then I fell in love with football too. But I mean, each sport takes a different mentality, especially when you look at like a relief pitcher or a closing pitcher, something like that. You can go 2 games in a row. If you gave up a home run last night to, the opposing team, and they won the game based off your hit, and they call on you again, last night never happened. You have to have the shortest memory ever if you're a relief pitcher. Like, every sport takes a different set of skills, and there's a reason why a lot of these athletes don't become multi-sport athletes anymore outside of maybe high school and maybe college. That's because in college you can kind of divide your time, unless, like you guys said, if it's bait or if it's football and it's like track or something, because that's a way to stay in shape in the off season. But yeah, I mean, if you put Kawhi Leonard on skates, or if you put Sabonis on skates, it's going to be hilarious to watch. If you put Anthony Davis out there lining up at tight end, his ankles are going to snap. If you put, I'm trying to think of another guy, put Russell Wilson as a small forward, he's going to get destroyed. If you put, then we can go on this all day. Like, there's a reason why these guys went professional in their respective sports, is because while they might have been decent at the other one, they were not good enough for the next level at this next sport. There's very, very few who can make that transition, and they would only get by on their pure athletic ability if there's a skill that they could learn. You could learn how to have a better jump shot. You can learn, potentially, if you have the right mentality for it, how to play baseball. You can potentially learn how to play or how to skate, but you can't really, like, you're so far behind. Like, Dave, Brent, correct me if I'm wrong, they start them so early in Canada when it comes to skating.
3 or 4 years old. Like, it wasn't back when a long time ago. It wasn't a matter of when you were going to play hockey, or if you're going to play hockey. It was when. It's one of those
Exactly.
things, like you just started skating, and like where my parents still are today, there was an outdoor rink just around the corner, and we skate there when you're 3-4 years old, right? It's one of those things you do. It's just it's hard to compare and have these guys talk about going into other sports, and you wonder, was Paul George's comments, was it taken out of context at all, saying I could jump in here, or these guys can jump in there, or if I took it on when I was younger, I could have done this as well, because I don't think a sane person, and I don't know anything much about Paul George, but I don't think a sane person could say that I could jump into a professional sport. Not now, the way the game is played the way the game is played is now. I don't think a sane person would say I could jump into any other sport in any way the way it's played now. There's no way. There's no way any athlete now in any sport. I can't think of a guy that could bounce around the big four and have a chance of playing. I really don't.
Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray couldn't do it. Yeah, I mean he
gave the Oakland A's their money back.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not doing this. I can't do it.
Go to Arizona with a gun and a mask.
Oh my God, looks like, what did somebody say on a scouting report? It looks like a toddler running with a remote, and now I can't unsee that every time I watch him scramble, because what it looks like. But I mean, and Jim actually made a good point.
Nice. Yeah.
Jim made a good point. He said DK Metcalf would make a good forward in the NBA. And then, yeah, if DK could develop a jump shot, because he could jump out of a gym. If
that was somebody actually
halfway decent handles, he could do it.
An NBA player actually mentioned that about DK. They said, "Bro can't dribble.
Yeah,
he doesn't have a handle.
If he could get handles, he could play. He could do it. But that's again relying on pure athletic ability. He doesn't have the skill to dribble. But I mean, he could learn, but he didn't develop that skill growing up, so he's already behind everybody else.
Well, the thing is that these guys are athletes, right? And they're already physically fit, right? So they have that on guys
physically fit to play their
sport. But I guess if you took some time off to get into something else and took an off season to get trained,
it's gonna take time, because try a baseball player or basketball player or football player. Let them try to do soccer.
Soccer is the only.
Dave's a soccer guy. Like Dave's actually a soccer guy, so he'll comment on that.
Let them try to do soccer.
Let them try to do like translates.
Hey, we saw Tyreek Hill and DK Metcalf trial for track,
and
that was doing good.
But that's just running, right?
Yeah,
that's just running.
But the training aspect of it is entirely different. You can't just think, oh yeah, I'm fast, I can run with the best. That's trained, built, and are made for that specific sport. Like, this is what I do. I mean, I think DK came in either 7th or 8th in his heat when he was trying out for the Olympics. Tyreek is one of the fastest guys in football. I think he did okay in the track in his heat, but that's only because he did track when he was in high school and he still knows the technique of it. With DK, when he was trying out with track, he had to go through different types of training just to get his stance right in his technique. Going to get, there's levels of training that goes into it. That's where you got to pay the respect and homage to each sport, because there's different levels of training and type of conditioning that it's supposed to be. Heck, it even goes into wrestling. People say it's fake, but the level of training.
They're athletes.
They're absolutely athletes. Yeah, I used to give them. I used to give them a lot of shit, but they're absolutely athletes.
But the level of training conditioning that you must be in to be a wrestler, it's amazing.
It's nuts. I mean, it's something that I feel like the only one I could think of off the top of my head. I'm trying to get dragged for this. There are two sports I feel like I could translate: hockey to golf. Because if you get a guy with hockey to golf, if they could hone in their control, if they get a mean wrist shot, they can play golf. DeChambeau,
a lot of hockey players play golf. A lot of hockey players are very good golfers.
DeChambeau could have a remarkable slap shot, but it would probably hit some fan in the top row because the dude is.
I don't know if golfers become hockey players, but golf.
Exactly, because again, put them on skates, you have a problem. The other one, soccer players to kickers in the NFL.
Okay, I agree with
soccer
that.
Players.
I agree with that.
That one I can do, because I mean, Eddie Pinheiro, the old Gators kicker who actually played for the Chicago Bears, was a soccer player at the University of Florida, and we didn't have a kicker. So he tried out for the team. He was hitting 60-yard field goals during warmups.
Let me go back to that golf thing. Golf and hockey thing. Who's a golfer right now? Who's a professional golfer that got a hot temper?
We got plenty.
Oh, that Patrick Reed.
Okay.
Patrick Reed.
He's more of a
yeah.
cheater than a hot temper guy. But
All right.
Yeah, Patrick.
Here's where I can somewhat agree with the hockey thing. You got to deal with physicality. You got to deal with getting hit in the mouth, and you also got to deal with fighting.
Hockey players are tough, and I'm tired of like anybody who says otherwise.
Okay,
is
maybe
wrong.
golf. Maybe golf can do it. Maybe golf players could do it.
Hockey to golf, not golf to hockey. I'm sorry. It's some maybe, but I have
Just
nothing but
as a
respect for
side,
it.
in our neck of the woods, all the hockey players, like not, I won't say all of them, but a lot of them, they're baseball players and golfers. It's all hand-eye, right?
Summer's off.
If
Yeah,
you're with summers off, like as a general rule, they all have good hand-eye.
Yeah.
Summers off, they're good ball players and they're good golfers.
But they could never play at the next level, and that's the point. That I mean, I
And
feel
they
like
could never
that's
play NBA.
And now that's the thing, like we discussed earlier. That's the thing is that you because this is such a full-time job now, like you're saying, Jalen, that it's impossible for these guys to even think about taking another career because there's somebody looking out for your job in the NFL for sure. Like these guys have a lifespan of 3 years at the best of times, right? And so they're doing everything they can to stay in the league, and it's almost impossible to anyone to even think about having a two-sport career. Like it'd be impossible. What would have to happen? A guy would have to take a year off. If he was well off, like an NBA guy, let's say this Paul George character, if he goes, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot. That's the only way it could possibly happen, where a guy's financially set for life and he wants to give it a shot to prove somebody wrong and be a YouTube sensation or whatever.
It's what Jordan did. Jordan was like, yeah, I'm done playing basketball. I'm gonna go play baseball now. And he wasn't great, but he was able to do it. And I think I almost feel like that was a bet he made with somebody who was like, I'm gonna go play baseball. I bet I could do it. Because the renowned gambler himself.
I don't know if how much you guys know about that, but there's a take that he got suspended for betting and things. Do you know anything about that? Like there was something he got told, like, we can't suspend the greatest player ever for betting scandals so maybe just disappear for a couple of years and then come back, and then like there's a Dave, you remember that story?
Yeah, so many legends around Jordan. But I mean, Jordan was also a notorious gambler.
And that's why I don't dispute that conspiracy theory about Jordan, that they said, well, maybe just disappear and then you can come back.
We'll sweep this under the rug. Yeah.
It'll go away a little bit. Yeah.
Next time we do let's get into it. We got to talk about we got to talk about gambling issues in sports right now.
Oh my God. Don't give me.
Because I'm in a state, heck, I'm in a university that's right now in the thick of things right now with that issue.
My new star wide receiver was the poster boy for league gambling for a while. And
now he's back, and now two more dudes are in that same situation. They said they're not suspended for a year.
I thought it was 6.
Two for 6, 2 are for longer.
Guys, there's a couple,
So those guys were suspended for betting on sports in an NFL facility, which is apparently against the rules, which is stupid.
Actually, that kind of makes sense.
No, look, I am for sports betting as long as you're only betting on the outcome of the game to benefit yourself. Case in point, if that's what Calvin Ridley got in trouble for, is he bet on the fact that the Falcons were going to win. I'm sorry. If I'm in the locker room and everybody on my team can gamble, if I find one person who doesn't bet on us to win, get them off the team. They don't need to be here.
Yeah, like Alabama did with Brad Bohannon. And look how it turned out. You beat the number 5 team in the country.
I'll give you that. I'm trying to find it. Someone, there was some writer who apparently his Twitter account got hacked and he called Calvin Ridley a cheater or something, or talking about like, oh, he's like, I'm battling with my demons right now. And he goes, you should gamble on it. And then Calvin Ridley was like, you'd never say that to my face. And then the whole tweet got deleted. He's like, oh, my Twitter got hacked. I'm like, I don't know about that. I think you made an offhand comment and got called out for it. Yeah, you said what you said. Call it what it is. I mean, that's a whole different rabbit hole. But I mean, like, you guys are right. You would have to dedicate a year or more. And I'm talking like for the cream of the crop for each sport who have the potential to go pro in another sport. You would have to dedicate at least an entire year of your life to train to get ready to go into this next sport.
Yep.
Like Jalen, like you were talking about with DK and Tyreek Hill, like they have this and the straight line speed to be Olympic sprinters. However, if your stance is wrong and you get a crap start off the line, these dudes who have been training their entire lives to be Olympic sprinters are going to destroy you. I think DK placed like what, ninth or something in his qualifying thing. Like, what even close? He got smoked, and he's one of the fastest guys in the league. Like you cannot. And Brent, to go back to what you're saying, Paul George's comment was made about the fact that he thinks like LeBron, because LeBron played in high school, like half of these guys did. He thought LeBron would be like, if LeBron didn't play basketball, he's like, oh, LeBron would be a great tight end. I'm like, I don't know about that.
Well, okay, here's the reason why I won't say great tight end. I think he could be a good one. Because you combine a guy that's 6'9", because the average height in the NFL is around what we're talking about, 6'2", around 6'2", 6'3". Average height for around linemen is for like linemen and some tight ends is around 6'5" to 6'5" to 6'6". There's only about, I think, 2 guys that are 6'7". One of them just got drafted to Pittsburgh. So you give a guy that's around like 6'9" that can move around like that, that's that athletic, give him time to learn routes. Mind you, this is LeBron James, this ain't Tim Tebow. All right, LeBron James can move a lot better than what
that's
Tim
Gator
Tebow
royalty
could
right there. You
at that time. Also, the way tight ends are played right now are more like bigger body receivers. They're not like constantly blocking unless you're in Baltimore or
Atlanta and Kyle Pitts.
Or Atlanta and Kyle Pitts.
Hashtag free Kyle Pitts.
So, yeah. So, like with LeBron in his prime, not now, in his prime.
No, God, no, not now.
It's a matter of you need a whole offseason and plus another year to learn and perfect routes. You need tight end university. Travis Kelce, Greg Olsen, guys like that to teach you how to run routes from that position. You learn that. The catching, there's still some fundamental aspects of it, but like combine the athleticism with the height and the mobility, you can have some level of success given where you go. That's why I kind of agree that LeBron James, given his ability, and if he's put in the right type of system that can be able to get that potential out, I agree with he would be a pretty good tight end. I'm not gonna go great.
That's fair. All right. Well, let's keep this rolling. We usually always try to keep the show under 45-ish minutes at the most. So I got two questions for everybody. One of them specifically for Brent and Dave. First one is for everybody. Deion Sanders and Bo Jackson aside, can you name at least one two-way player who played 2 different sports at the professional level? Because you can't name one since after the 90s, because they don't do that anymore. But can you name at least one besides Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders? And Jordan?
I remember Tom Glavine got drafted by the Braves, and I thought he was a Rangers pick as well back in the 80s or late 80s.
I thought it was a Bruins pick.
Or Bruins pick or whatever it was. He was maybe a Tom Glavine type because he's a Northeast guy, so he got the chance to play hockey and pitch. But I can't think of anybody else but Tom Glavine that maybe played 2 sports of any faction, I guess. Is
okay.
Like that's the only guy I can think of. Other than those 2 guys, I can't think of anybody else.
Dave, what about you?
Well, I got a couple. There's like Kyler Murray, right? He gave Oakland back their signing bonus. Tom Brady got drafted by somebody as a pitcher.
The Expos.
I want to say the Blue Jays. The
Expos.
And it was the Expos.
Yeah. You want to talk about a team that didn't know anything about marketing? Good God, we can talk about the demise of the Expos. That's a whole other episode. Let's get into it. Is the nightmare that the Expos were. That's a whole other thing.
And never as a pro, but I'm gonna say the kid that had the best 12-year-old year ever in the history of 12-year-old athletes, Chris Drury is his name. He won the American his team won the hockey championship of America.
Okay.
They were the national championships as a 12-year-old. And then he went on to pitch the Trumbull, Connecticut team to the Little League World Series title. I get it. He was a 12-year-old, but then again, he went on to play for Boston College. He went on to play in the NHL.
He's a GM for the Rangers now.
And now he's the GM of the majors. So I think that Chris Drury might
so he doesn't
be
know what
biggest,
he's doing if he's a GM for the Rangers.
There is that.
Well, he
Another
tried,
book guy
but-
instead of gut guy.
but he has a Stanley Cup, he has a Hobie Baker Award, and he has a Little League World Series. Like it sounds ridiculous to say this, but some of the teammates on both his hockey team and his baseball team, that was the best day of their life.
Fair enough. I got one that
he's carried it forward.
I got one that I don't think anybody really remembers. And you guys might remember now as baseball guys. Danny Ainge.
Oh, he was a Blue Jay draft pick.
Danny Ainge, up
Yeah.
until 2019, was the youngest guy to ever hit a home run for the Blue Jays. At what was it? It was 20. He was 20 years old. June 2nd, 1979, until Vladdy hit it at 20 years old and 18, or he was 18 days younger than Danny Ainge when he hit it. And then
As a major leaguer or in
Yeah.
spring training, or he was an
Major
actual
leaguer.
major leaguer?
he was
I
an
did
actual
not-
major leaguer.
I learned something tonight on the Two Deuces
I
Sports News
just-
There you
podcast. I didn't
go. It
know
was
that.
Danny Ainge. He was the youngest Blue Jay to ever hit a home run. And he had an exec who said that he could be a very good second baseman and would have hit around 280, which not bad. But
That's a career.
he's also got quite a few rings as a Boston Celtic, and he's one of the best guards we've ever had, arguably.
Best guards that we've
Arguably.
ever
We've had a lot of
Stop
good guards.
it.
We've had a lot of good guards. He was also a product of being around great players. He was the
Yes.
Scotty to Larry Bird. he was Larry's Scotty Pippen. But Jalen, what you got? You got anybody?
I got nothing.
You got nothing? All right. Well, we'll close
Tony
out on that one.
Gwynn was an All-American at San Diego State as
Okay.
a guard.
I was just trying to keep it professional, but yeah, I mean that's a good one too. There's a couple. And I'm sure there's
There
some
is a
obscure ones
couple.
we forgot about. But I mean, these are guys back from the 80s or 90s. These are guys who still aren't
Never happening again.
Happening
Never been able
anymore.
to do it again. All right.
And the
well,
money's too big, right? The
No,
money's just too big. And
absolutely.
like, other owners aren't going to let their guys go from team to team and
No.
bounce around. They're just not.
They're
going
not
to.
risking that. Heck,
No,
like,
they're not risking that. I'm sure it's in their
one,
contracts.
like
too.
one off season. The first year Patrick Mahomes won MVP, he was playing a pickup basketball game. Immediately, reports came out that the owner of the Chiefs said, like, don't ever do that again.
Don't ever do it again. You are our franchise. You are our guy for the next 10. You are our cash cow for the next 5 to 10 years.
And we're
You
giving
hurt
you
your knee
$50 million a year, so you better not do that anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's like Drew Brees had it in his contract, and he was with the Saints, where he couldn't
Like,
ride a
if you want to
motorcycle.
play basketball, we'll buy you Xbox.
Yeah, I mean that. That's why Kyler Murray is still in Arizona.
There you go.
All right, I got one more question for you guys before we guys let you go. I know you guys were coming on a little late, and it's late on a Monday night, so I appreciate you guys coming on.
Not a problem.
Dave, I got one more question for each of you guys. Do you think this is the year that the Leafs break the curse?
They're down 3-0.
You
think
know,
they do it?
it's
As of recording, they're down 3-0.
a week ago, I thought for sure, and I'm a Leafs guy. A week ago, I thought for sure that they got past the Tampa Bay Lightning the first time in
Bill Bolts.
X amount of years. They went around for the first time in 19. And if you asked me last Monday, Garrett, 100%. This was the year they're going to do it. And now they're down 3-0.
In
And
true
last night's
Leaf
performance
fashion.
that they put out there against the Florida Panthers was absolutely fucking disgusting. I cannot believe that hockey team called themselves professionals last night. It was gross to a man. It
So,
was an awful effort. It was awful.
From a grammatical standpoint, why are they the Leafs and not the Leaves?
I don't know the story to that.
No
but
one really
I
knows because
like it.
actually, like my wife, she's from Toronto originally, and her family's from Toronto. And I asked them; they don't know either. And nobody knows. It's maybe that's why they're never going to win. It's just the
Grammatical
hockey
errors.
gods, the grammatical police saying you're not very good. You don't have a chance. Now the Leafs are a mess, and they always will be. And that's kind of it's our Boston Red Sox up here in Canada. It's one of those things like people expect them to. We don't even expect them to win. And that's the thing. We're like, well, this is the Leafs, and they're not going
Yep.
to win.
And
It's
if it was-
Let me ask you.
Yeah,
Let me ask y'all something real quick. I know y'all in Canada, y'all got your own teams, but were y'all surprised that the Boston Bruins got put out
Yes.
as early as they did?
oh, absolutely. The Bruins and
100%
the Avalanche
trash.
getting put out in the first round was nuts.
Like that Bruins team was rolling, and they made it look really easy all year long. Like they weren't fighting, they weren't struggling. They just went out every night and won.
They led the league in points, didn't they?
Yeah, they
Oh,
won
they
65
set a
games.
record.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did set a record for most points.
It was
They won
the Golden
65
State-
games,
it
and-
was
and
the
they-
Golden
and they were
State
just doing it.
thing. Yeah.
And the team was just flying it, and it wasn't like one or two guys that were scoring it. All the entire team was just rolling. Goalies were stopping, everything was hitting them, and then they just ran into problems somehow in the playoffs. Injury
And they
here or
were
there,
up
but
3-1.
yeah,
Those lights are too bright sometimes.
yeah,
I
it
was listening
crazy.
to a podcast about the old Leafs owner, Harold Ballard.
Harold Ballard.
Ballard.
Yeah,
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
He was a
That
wacko.
was, oh my God. Anybody listen to this podcast later on, if you ever want to hear a good story, go look up some of the things he did, taking down a picture of the Queen in the top row for extra seats.
yeah.
Oh
He was a
yeah,
beauty.
he was
That's
he's
hilarious.
Donald Trump before Donald Trump
I like-
probably took some.
That guy's
tips
an
from him
absolute
as a businessman.
nut. But we could talk
Yeah.
about dysfunctional owners forever. Those are always fun. But look,
Yeah.
I know you guys got to go. I appreciate you guys coming on. Brent, Dave, for the people who haven't had or listened to you guys on our show before, where can the people find you?
1420 podcast, 4 Beer Sports, talking a whole lot more. We've been around since tonight's actually, after we're done recording with you, tonight's our 300 show, little anniversary edition of the show tonight. We're doing, it kind of got past us, but we've been around since the COVID years of August of 2020. We started doing our thing. We don't get in too depth of stats, sitting around like BS and about sports bar talk like you would with your buddies, sitting around having a few beers, and that's kind of what we do on a bi-weekly or twice a week basis. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun doing it. We don't know what we're doing, we're having a lot of fun doing it.
We don't know either. You guys have gotten me through many a long road trip through Southern Georgia, so I appreciate it. But yeah, Dave, what about you? Any personal Twitter stuff or anything you guys want to plug, socials, whatever? I know Brent, sounds like you've done that.
No,
4 Beer
I'm
Sports
just
talking a
here-
whole lot more thing once or twice.
I'm just here for the ride. I got my kid playing baseball. We're going down to the States 3 of the next 4 weekends for baseball tournaments. Where we live is only an hour north of Montana. And so I'm a baseball dad. Fuck,
There you
there's a
go.
lot of driving and a lot of sitting and being bored.
I know
But
you
what do
got
you
a lot,
do?
but I know you got a lot of pride with that.
Oh no, I love doing it. There's nothing else I would rather do. But
Yeah.
Jesus, there are some hours that I would like back. But what do you do? That's what a dad does with his boy.
Dave's
I'm
kid
happy
don't listen to
to
this
do it.
show.
Yeah.
Good.
So
Don't listen to the
this
last
is
5
right
minutes of
beside
the
me
show.
here is that actually.
No. I got my dog here instead of my kid. Yeah, you can always tell whichever.
Dogs are kids, too.
whichever we said. Yeah.
Dogs are kids too. You can leave on your own, but that's a whole other tangent. We're not going to go down. As always, we want to round out the show the way we always round it out. Thank you for everybody for listening. We appreciate the 30 to 45 minutes of your time. The timer on my actual recording of this is broken, so I have no idea how long this is going to be. We're going to find out later. Thank you, Jim, for being our one listener during the live stream. We appreciate you. Always chiming in, saying Kyler Murray looks like a kid running through Walmart with a toy his mom let him get. So you guys wanna
Man,
get
the
shout-outs?
myth, the legend, Jim
Yes,
Plotner,
sir.
man in the
Oh,
van.
man, that was
Yeah,
a fun episode. We got to get him back on again. That was fun.
he's great.
He's great. But y'all's Yankees Rage was fantastic. If you guys haven't listened to their show, that the guys at 1420 do a bunch of different shows. They just did one called After Hours with Brent and
After
Amber.
hours.
You got a voice like an angel there, Jalen.
There we go.
That
He's
was
got a
No.
he's got a side career. But we
No. I saw that. No, once puberty hit, boys went with it.
Karaoke King, Jalen Prince. There it is.
God, that is how I was partial. I was a part-time announcer for Georgia Southern women's softball for a season. That was fun.
I would love to do that. Like, okay,
It was fun.
Here's the thing. I would love to be a PA announcer because I'm petty enough. I'm petty and entertaining enough to do it.
So
I would throw so much shade at the opposing team.
that job fell on my lap because when I was working for Georgia Southern Marketing, my boss said, "Hey, I need somebody to fill in for the guy who's doing this." The only problem is, softball games, they have tournaments down south, and Dave, now you're seeing this because the ground up north is frozen. So you got the ball hits it a little bit differently still around this time of year. So everybody comes south for tournaments. They said, sometimes these games can run long or, 12, 13 hours. And I've looked at the guy dead in his face and said, Dan, if there's anybody who could talk for 13 hours, he's sitting on the other side of your desk.
Hey, Garrett. You want to tell them about the time like you helped me win a pizza eating contest?
That might be a story for another day. Jalen,
Yeah, we'll say that later.
Yeah, Jalen was
Save
in the
it for
pizza
another
eating contest
time.
for Georgia Southern. Yeah, because we gotta let you guys go. But anyways,
Yeah.
thank you guys for listening.
That was
fun. That's a story for another day. That's an all-fair story for another time. But no, thank you guys for listening. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to give us 5-star review, comment, subscribe, feed the algorithm gods. We don't know why it works, but it does. For some reason, it gets our little tiny podcast up the charts. We appreciate all of it. Don't give guys like Paul George and Draymond Green and all the athletes who have podcasts in their spare time who are raking in millions in sponsors just because they're bored and everybody knows who they are. Give it to the small guys. Give it to us. We're the indie guys. Come on.
Do you care what they got to say?
100%.
Exactly. You don't care what they have to say unless we're us and we're roasting what they have to say and talking about how wrong they are.
Hey, it is what it is, man. Like
as two guys in their bedrooms.
If you want to talk it, live with the consequences.
Exactly. So, anyways, feed the algorithm gods. Let us know if you like the show. 5 stars, comment, all of that. That's the easiest way to get a shout out. If you didn't like the show, though, that's another way to not get a shout out is to leave a bad review. Don't do that. Doesn't help anybody. Doesn't help you. It's a waste of your time. We appreciate you listening, but I can't give you your time back, and I'm not going to. Nope. So here's all the list of people who do all the retweets and the likes. You can find us on Twitter at TDSNPod. That's going to be the best place to interact with us. We're pretty active on there. Do not give Jalen any hate for a lot of things that get said. I run that Twitter, and I've been pretty active these last few days with Twitter beef, so I will not let
Shoot, even if they give me hate, I'm like, yes.
Just for being late.
There's no such thing as bad press, kids. There's no such thing as bad press.
Don't drag him, drag me. I'm the one who makes a lot of the comments.
They can try to drag me. Like, you're going to be dragging 294 pounds of problem.
It's a lot to drag. So, anyways, shout outs for this week are the same people as usual. We want to give a shout out, obviously, to Brent Dave over at 1420 Sports. We want to give a shout out to Austin over at the Wrestling World Podcast, our buddy Jim over at Fan in the Van, our one live watcher and comment leaver. The guys over at BSing Sports, Aaron and JD over at Brutaliana Sports, Nate Saley Wager, Darian over at Chill Takes. I haven't forgotten about trying to get you on, man. We're going to get you on a show soon. I promise. Life has been crazy. I haven't forgotten. You know we love you. Level the playing field with Dave and John. Dave, I'm still holding on for the fact that Phoenix is going to find a way to blow this spectacularly. I haven't forgotten about our bet. I will openly admit that we're wrong if they find a way to win it all, but I don't think they will. We Like Sports Podcast, who again are part of our first ever lost episode. Sports Betting with Jake and Scott, Sports Bliss with Rob and Chris, the Refiltered and Stupid History Minute Podcast, and if you want another wrestling show, John over at Wrestling Fan Insight. So that's going to be it for the show. As always, thank you, and we will see you next time.
Peace.